Welcome back to Board Game Breakdown. I am Kristofer Solomon here with our newest video, and today we are going to be looking at the first entry in the newest trilogy from Garfield Games. It is the South Tigris trilogy, and so this game is called Wayfarers of the South Tigris. So before we get started, this is a little bit of a long video because we are going to look at setup, gameplay, parts of the solo variant. So if you want a quicker video, maybe 3 to 4 minutes, please click this link here for our burst video. You'll kind of get a high overarching view of what Wayfarers is, so you can kind of decide, is it the type of game that you might want to play? And then you can come back to this video if you want a full extensive view on how setup works and all those types of things. So in Wayfarers, you are going to primarily be rolling dice. So I know some people don't like rolling dice, and that's a little bit too lucky, but trust me, there are plenty of ways to manipulate the dice in Wayfarers, and you'll be using this little player board here, and I don't have the main board out, but fast forward to the next section to see how that works. But you'll be using this player board to basically buy cards. So you've got some land cards, space cards, things like that. You'll be building out your city, which will allow you to have more actions. You can invite townsfolk here to your city that will help you out. And you can take a lot of different actions as far as journaling and influencing guilds and influencing cards to make players pay for them. It's just really a lot of fun. There's a lot of different decisions to make. So it is a little weightier than maybe definitely like Architects of the West Kingdom. It's going to be weightier than that. So, you know, just it depends on if you like heavier games or not. But if you like dice placement, if you like set collection, things like that, I definitely think you should try this out. If you like other Shem Phillips designed games, you're a fan of his, I would not miss this, as it brings a lot of things to the table that he's really good at. So before we get into the actual video, I just want to remind you to please go to the website at boardgamebreakdown.com. We have text reviews up there, links to our other videos. You can subscribe here on YouTube, of course, and we have a Mastodon account. If you want to go follow us there to see what is new, please like whatever you see, leave me comments, that'd be awesome. Without further ado, we will jump right into it and get started with Wayfarers of the South Tigris. Alright, so we're going to be doing the setup here, and we're going to be setting it up as if we have 2 players. But you will notice that a lot of things as we're going through also apply to the solo variant. So if you're looking for the solo portion of this, you can skip to the last chapter to see the gameplay, but I would stay here for the setup because a lot of it is going to apply to both. So you'll see the board out here, and I've already put some pieces on that we'll go over, but just to save some time. But the board is constructed of 3 pieces, and they are both dual-sided here, or all 3 of them are. So you can lay them out in any configuration as far as front or back goes. But you will obviously have the side that has like a pen or ink well or something on the left side, and then these minarets need to be on the right side, but you can put them front or back however you want to. And that just kind of helps give some variety to each game. The other thing that adds some variety is you will see these little tiles here on the back. Again, they have this, I don't know, whatever kind of pen that is, and an ink blotch. Before playing, you'll take all these, you'll mix them up, and then you'll lay them out on the spots that are empty. So I've kind of already done that, but again, that will just allow you to have some different variety throughout the game. You'll get 4 green workers here, and so you're going to place them 1, 2, 3, 4 on these green spots, and that will come into play when we go over the gameplay. And then you have a few other tiles around that are upgrade tiles. So you have these pink bordered ones, and you'll have 1 of each type, and you'll place them in the appropriate spot up there and down here. And these are called special upgrade tiles. And then you have green, black, blue, and yellow rimmed upgrade tiles, and they are for land, water, space, and those are called basic. But you'll take as many as players as there are of each type. So you'll see I have like 2 of these camel and dice ones. So because we're setting up for 2 players, you'll put 2 of each around the board, and they will always go in their specific spots. They don't get mixed up as the other ones do. And then really lastly for the board is these decks of cards. So you'll see there are 5 decks around the board, and you will separate them obviously into the different decks, shuffle them up, and then we're going to flip over 4 of each type and put them here where you can kind of see this little kind of lighter page looking portion there. That's the spot where you're going to put the cards. So you'll see the yellow ones here are land cards. So I'm going to go ahead and flip over 4 of those like so. These are the water cards. So I'll flip over 4 of those. These green ones are townsfolk cards. And if you've played any of the like West Kingdom games, you'll definitely recognize the style of artwork that the townsfolk cards have. They look very similar to a lot of the other games that Garfield Games puts out. On the top right, those black cards are space cards. And then lastly, on the right side of the board, you have what's called an inspiration card, and we'll also put out 4 of those. And for the inspiration cards, you do want the blue side pointed to the left and the gold side pointed to the right, as that will be important when we go over what those cards actually mean. You'll see over here that I've just got a pile of the silver or gold or whatever, I think it's silver tokens. And then these little brown bags are called provisions. So you just put those off to the side. We'll talk about what they do. And then lastly, you need what each player is going to need for their individual board. So first they need an actual board, and we'll grab one of those over here. Now this is one of those games that's hard to fit in the frame, so you're going to see the board for a second, and then I'll have to come back and do a more in-depth view of the board when we talk about playing. But this is what a player board looks like. This little spot up here, this caravan, is slightly different from board to board. And then the back has what the AI player will use if you're playing solo. So again, we'll talk about that in the last chapter. But you'll give everybody a board, and they'll put it wherever they're playing. And then they also need a couple of other components. So they need to pick a color. So for this gameplay, I've got purple and light blue out. But the tokens that you'll get will be 5 dice of whatever color. And what you'll do is you're going to take 2 of those dice, and you're going to put them up there by the minarets, and you're going to start with 3 dice for your board. You're going to have a player token, and this is going to go on the left side of the board there. It will travel down this journal track. You'll see how that works. You're going to get a bunch of inspiration tokens here. There are these little star asterisk looking tokens. And then you need to start with 1 blue worker and 1 yellow worker. Now, if you are first player, then you are going to take 1 of your inspiration tokens, and you're going to put it in the blue minaret, which is the blue guild. You're going to take, let's see, 2 provisions and $3, 3 silver. Okay. Now, if you're playing as second player, so jump in here with the blue, put his token over there, he is going to get an influence token in the blue guild, and he gets one in the yellow guild. And then he will also get 3 silver and 2 provisions. So basically you start off with the same resources. The second player just gets an additional influence over there in that guild. So that is basically set up. So I'm going to rearrange a little bit so that we can go over how you actually play, what the actions are, and how you can see the main board. So give me 1 minute to do that, and I'll be right back. Welcome back. We're going to quickly look at the individual player board here and what is making up the board. So first I want to dive into one of the main aspects of the game, and it is this top square here, which is called the caravan. And I'm not gonna lie, the first couple times I played, the caravan was fairly confusing to me. Maybe I'm just slow and didn't quite get it, but these emblems that are the icons that are printed on it when you start out weren't the reason for them was not entirely clear. So hopefully this little explanation will help you out. But when you start out, everybody starts out with 2 icons, the camel and the telescope. And so a 1 die represents a camel, a 6 represents a telescope. All of these other icons are things that you're going to get when you cover them up. So a 4 does not equal a silver coin. That's where I went wrong in my thought process. So just understand that you're going to only use a 1 or a 6. Not only use them, but those are the only ones you start out representing anything. So if I take my die and I'm going to roll them. All right, so I got a 4, a 5, and a 6. So you'll see when we get into how to actually play more about how the dice work. But basically, you're going to place a dice in any of these white spots, these little white squares that are on your player board. But if they have an emblem in them, you need to play a die that represents that emblem. So you'll see that I didn't roll any 1s, so I have no way of putting right now a die here and using it for this camel, because the only thing currently that's a camel is a 1. Now, I did roll a 6, and a 6 can be a telescope. So I could take this and I could put that here because it's a telescope, and then I could do this action. So obviously you've got 2, 3, 4, and 5 that do not represent anything, and that's where you can place them into these white spots here that don't have an emblem. So I could take a 5 and I could put it there, and I could do this action. Okay, so that's the main point of the caravan, and quickly I'll just show you when you buy upgrade tiles like this one, and we'll go into more detail later, but this is how you would buy that, and now you have a bird under a 4. So I could take, and this is actually a 5, but the pip fell off here. So if it was a 4 that I rolled, and a 4 is now able to be a bird, I can take that and I can put it here and do that action. So you're going to build out your caravan. You obviously do not want to keep it like this the whole game because you will have a really hard time using your die. So again, we'll circle back to exactly how to use the die, but I wanted to give you that description there while we're zoomed in on this board, and hopefully that alleviates any problems you might have with the caravan. So I'm going to move this die. And so if you look elsewhere, you've got a couple basically like cards already attached to your board. And so you have on this side a land card, and when you place more land cards, they're going to go that way. You have a water card here, and when you get more water cards, they're going to go that way. And you have one space card up here. You have a reminder on what resting does, so we'll go over that at the end. And then you will see multiple icons or tags. So there are a couple different land tags. There can be cities, which is this. There can be vistas, which is this little mountain here. There, for the water, there are these harbors, and then there are also open water, which would be a tag like that. And then for the space, there is quite a few. This one is stars, and then there are like planets. There's a sun, there's a moon. We'll get to those when we talk about the space. And then there are two, they're not really primary tags, they're kind of secondary tags. There's an observatory, and then there's a library. And those can show up on land or water, and they are going to help you pretty much do more space cards, get more space cards, or do more journaling if it's a library. So that is really what I wanted to concentrate on here with the main board, just because it's going to be a little difficult to see the main board, or your player board, I mean, when we jump back to the other view, since I can't fit everything on the screen, but I wanted you to have a close-up on that and see how that works. So now we'll jump back over to the main section of the board, and we'll go over the actions and how to actually play the game. Alright, so we've looked at setting it up, we've looked at the player board and what that's all about. So now we're going to get into the actual gameplay and how you go about playing and taking actions in Wayfarers. So there are two things you can do on your turn. And the first thing is place a die on your board, which we talked a little bit about in the last section, but you'll see my board here, and anywhere you see these white squares, you can place a die. So you start out with 3 die like we talked about, rolled, and you can place them on your board and trigger the action. Or you can take one of your workers, and you start out with a yellow and a blue worker, and you can place them on a card. Now there are little icons here letting you know which color worker goes on which card. So you'll see that this can be a green or a yellow worker, and so you cannot take a blue worker and stick him on that card. Only a yellow worker can go there, or a green worker. Up on the top left, only green workers can go. No workers can go into space. The bottom right here, you can do green or blue. And then the right side, the inspiration cards, you can place yellow, green, or blue. And so when you place a worker, like so, first you're going to lose that worker. What happens is whoever purchases this card or gets it somehow eventually is going to get that yellow worker, and it's going to come back into their little pool of workers. But by placing your worker there, you do get to do the action that's printed on that card right there. Or not the card, but I'm sorry, on the little section here. So it is totally feasible for your opponent to have multiple workers and you to have none. If that's the case, then you will be just putting dice down on your board. Okay, so that's basically the thing with the workers. I'm going to put the board back out here, and I'm going to cover up a little bit of this, but I just want to talk a little bit about these actions here that you can take at the beginning of the game, because everybody's board down here is the same, and kind of how those work. So let me make sure that you can see this. Okay, so let's just work left to right here, and I've already talked about the caravan and the portion of the individual player board, so I'm not going to go back over that. But looking here, if you were to have a camel and you place a dice there, then you are going to pay 2 provisions, and then you're going to be allowed to purchase a yellow card and get a silver. So where are the yellow cards located? Well, they are right here, and these are your land cards. So again, lands can be either cities, which is this icon here, or a vista or a vista right there. but they're going to do slightly different things. A city is going to always have a die spot on it. And in that way, when you add it to your board, and the way you're going to add it to your board is you're going to purchase the card and layer them to the left, and you'll see you'll have cards spanning that way. But they're going to give you extra spaces to play your die, so that you don't only have these spaces, but you also are going to have the spaces on the cards. The vistas here, what they typically do is, one, if you've ever played a Garfield game, you will recognize the lightning bolt, which means you do that action immediately. So there's typically something like this, which is re-rolling a die, that you're allowed to do immediately. And then there are these icons down here that basically for the rest of the game, if you get an observatory or a library, so whatever's on the left side of the arrow, you get to do what's on the right side of the arrow. So vistas basically give you an ongoing ability that you can trigger throughout the game. All right, so hopping back to our board, I know I said left to right, but let's go ahead and tackle this side because it's very similar to the land side. But if you have a dice that is represents a boat, which you don't start with, so you will have to upgrade your caravan again, but you can place a dice there, you can pay 2 provisions, and you can get a blue card. So much like the land cards, you're going to be able to buy a water card, and those are located on this side. You have harbors, which are very similar to a city in that it's going to give you an extra dice space to play on. And then you have these open water cards, which basically just give you a one-time immediate effect as soon as you purchase the card. Now the difference in the water cards are these icons on the side. So on the left and right side, you will see some icons here. And so what happens is, let's bring our board back over here. And you'll see that your starting water here has a couple icons, right? And so if you were to purchase this card and place it down here, wherever the lightning bolts line up, you get to do those things. So you get to place an influence in the gold minaret, which we will talk about shortly, and you would gain a provision. Then on your next time you buy a water card, maybe it lines up here, you'll see there's only a lightning bolt in line with that one. And so that way you would only get a silver, and that would be all you got to trigger. But you're going to kind of like match these up, and as you build your water cards out like that, you'll get to do more lightning bolt immediate actions. So let's move to the center here. So this one, the telescope, you place a die there. You get to either purchase a black space card, which are those up on the top right, or you can buy a bonus tile from the space section. So let's look at the bonus tiles first. There are these 3. They cost $3. So you'd have to place a dice here, pay $3, and then you could pick up one of these and put it in your caravan. Again, if you did not watch that section, this is just another way of adding symbols to your caravan. So now if you roll a 3, it can act as a boat, a camel, or a bird for you to place on your board here. So the other option was to buy a space card, and you'll see that they're increasing amounts of money as you go to the right. And in order to buy a space card, you do have to have an open water or sorry, not open, but either a water card or a land card, and then the space card goes above it. So let's pretend that we had bought that, and then we bought the space card. It would sit like this. So if you do not have a land or a water, you cannot buy a space card and just sit it out here in the open. That is not going to work. Space cards allow you some sort of extra scoring option at the end of the game, usually for collecting a certain amount of icons or having sets of things. They can also, like these 2 here, have the lightning bolts and allow you to do something immediate as soon as you buy the card. All right, so looking at this icon here with the hawk or bird or whatever, it allows you an option of 2 different things. So this first icon here, which is like the inkwell, has to do with this journal track. So I'm going to move this out of the way so we can look at that. But whenever you take the journal action, which again is this icon here with the little inkwell, you're allowed to take your player token and move it to the next slot. And so here at the beginning, you can either move up to this one or down to this one. When you move to this slot, if you're the first person in this area, you get the green worker. You can put him in your spot and kind of add him to your pool of workers. You also do whatever is on the tile. You don't take the tile, it stays there for anyone who comes along. So you don't pick it up and take it with you, but your benefit of getting there first is really getting the green worker. But if you were to take the ink journaling action again, after this first spot, you're going to see that the two ink blots have some icons, and these are requirements to move on. So at this point, I would need to have some sort of bonus tile in my caravan. And remember, that is the caravan's up here, so let's pretend I had that. So if I was right here, I could say, hey, I've got one blue bonus tile, being this. I don't have a green bonus tile, so if I take the journal action, I'm going to have to move through this ink blot to here. And then the next time I'm allowed to journal, I'm going to either have to have one vista or one open water icon. Depending on what I have, I could go up to here or down to there. So it is possible that you do not think far enough ahead and you trap yourself, which can be a problem. Sometimes you will get down the line and end up here and have no land tiles and have no planet icons anywhere in your little city, and then you cannot move on until you gain one of those. So you definitely want to think forward as you go along this path. Now, while we're talking about the journaling path, there are a few icons I'd like to call out. First, you're going to see this icon. Well, these two icons you're actually going to see here, here, and here at the end. So this plus one that has the blue, white, and yellow bands are going to be the only way that you get those inspiration cards. And the inspiration card looks like this, and it's going to actually sit above a space card like that. And if you get this, so if you end the game with 5 city icons in your little tableau over here, you're going to get to multiply this by 2. So it's kind of a way to enhance your space cards. And also, when you draw the card, you get to get whatever this is for free. So it's a nice little bonus of money or provisions, typically. That is the only way you're going to get the inspiration card. So make sure to choose wisely so you don't pick out something that you're never going to be able to collect. There's also this little dice and a hand, and when you get to that, that is how you're going to take one of your extra dice. So remember, we started with 3, but we put 2 over there. So when you get to this level, you'll gain a dice, and when you get to this level, you'll gain a dice, which obviously allows you to do more things on your turn because you have more dice to work with. The other icon you'll see that is here, here, and on the last level are these little pink with the white quill. So these are the special upgrade tiles. So when you get to one of these, you can pick out one of those and put it in your caravan, and it basically acts as a one extra icon. So if you're collecting, say, harbors, that's another harbor you're going to add to your caravan, and it will also be a certain amount of victory points at the end of the game. This is definitely a good way when you're moving forward and you're looking ahead to say, hey, when I get here, I need 3 cities, but I only have 2 cities. So maybe I go ahead and pick this up so it can be my 3rd city. So it's a good way of looking ahead and kind of planning that out. The last thing about the journal track is when somebody gets on this last level here, that does trigger the end of the game. So at that point, the other player has 1 turn left, and the player who triggered the end of the game has 1 turn. So if you slow roll the journal, the game could last a really long time. But that will trigger that. Back to our board here. The other option, if you don't take that, is you can pick up a worker of any color from one of the cards. So you basically pick the worker up and put them back in your pool. And you can place an influence in a guild, and you can place it in any 3 of the guilds. So let's talk about the guilds. So the guilds are these 3 minarets over here. So I could take a purple influence and I could place it in, say, the black guild. So a couple of different things about the guilds is at the end of the game, whoever has the most influence in the guild is going to be rewarded 3 points for each of the guilds that they have the most in. That's not the only thing they do, though. Each one gives you a bonus that you can spend an influence and do the bonus once a turn. So let's talk quickly about the bonuses. So if you spent one out of the blue, it basically acts as a boat. So if you don't have any boats in your caravan, you could spend one of those and you could play any dice down on a boat spot on your board and basically trigger that. So it's a good way to be able to buy water cards at the beginning of the game before you might have an upgrade tile for the ship. In the yellow, if you spend a influence token, then you get to 2 different die. You can manipulate up or down one value. And then when you spend one out of the black guild, during that turn, after you journal, you can spend one and you can journal a second time. So journaling, there's only a very few ways you can do it. So that's a great way of getting an extra one so you can start moving ahead of your opponent. Lastly, there are 2 more ones down here that you can basically place any die on. We'll look at this first. It's one will give you 2 provisions, and this one will give you 2 silver. So if you need those type of resources, then you can use those. This one allows you to buy a green tile. So much like the yellow and the blues, they sit up there. They only cost 2 gold instead of 3 gold like these, but you can buy one and put it in your caravan. Again, that's a great way to get a boat or even an extra telescope or a camel. And then lastly, you've got this green plus, and that is to buy the townsfolk. So the way the townsfolk work is, I'm going to move this just a little bit so it doesn't get confusing. The townsfolk actually go underneath a land or a water. And the way you know where they go is you are going to look at this icon right here. So that's the harbor icon, so he is only going to be able to go underneath a harbor. So there's a cost up here to the left. So if I took that action, I would need to pay 2 silver and I could pick him up. And then I can slide him underneath a harbor. And what that does is whenever I trigger this card now, I am going to be able to also, sometimes you can do what's down here if it is something like that. But for this case, because it is a ship and a bird, the ship actually acts as, I don't need a ship in my caravan anymore because I have that ship there. So I could play any die there and it can act as a ship. Same with if that was a bird, I could place any die there. But you might have something like this card, the merchant, that goes under there. And whenever I put a dice there, which I would have to have a ship up here, I get to trigger this and I get to do one of these things. So it kind of makes these cards more powerful. There's also a chance that they are open water guys. This is not an open water, but let's just pretend. And that will add things for you to do during your rest, which we'll talk about last. But you could have multiple of these open water guys, and when you take your rest option, then you're going to have a lot more things that you get to do. Lastly, there is a worker who can be a Vista. Let's see if we got, like this. And so if we look at this Vista and put him under there or her under there, the way that works is every time you got a planet or a moon or a sun and you did this, you would also get to do that action. So again, most of the time the villagers or townsfolk or whatever are going to help you strengthen the cards that you already have out there. All right, so let's see. We've looked at placing a dice, we've looked at placing a worker. So let's look at the influence tokens real quick, because that will matter when you are buying cards or picking up workers. Straighten everything up here. Okay, so there is an icon spread around the board, and let's see if we can find one. I'm looking. Yeah, okay, here we go. Let's look at the mercenary again. So this little icon, which is a card with the influence token, that allows you to take your influence and place it on any card. And what that does is, if anyone wants to interact with that card, anyone wants to buy it, or anyone wants to place some sort of worker on it, then they have to pay the owner of that card a silver. So you'll be kind of spreading your influence around the cards, as well as putting them in the guild, and that will help make you some more money. So there's obviously a lot of icons to this game. As you can see, there is a lot happening here. So we're not going to go through every single one of them, obviously, but I think going through the board like we just did and pointing out some of the things, you'll understand the gist of the game. Use the instruction book to figure out the other icons that we didn't go over, and it's fairly simple. But that's basically the gameplay. When it's your turn, you're going to place one dice into a spot in your city, or you're going to place a worker on a card and trigger the action opposite of that card, and then it's the other player's turn. You're going to go back and forth doing that. Oh, we didn't even talk about resting. We do need to talk about resting. So, resting happens resting can happen whenever, but it's best to do it if you only have 1 or 0 dice left. Because if you don't get to do any of these extra actions. But what resting allows you to do is you're going to pick up all of your dice from the different spots, because eventually you're going to run out of your 3 or 4 or 5 dice, and you're going to have to roll them again. And then you get to do one journal action, which again, remember, is to move this forward as long as you've met the requirement, and you're going to get $1 or silver. If you've placed out any townsfolk, like this guy, that has let's just pretend that's like there, you're going to just work down the line and you can do them in any order, but when you rest, you're going to get 2 provisions. So you'll just do all those things. You'll roll your die, then it's the other player's turn, and you go on from there. Remember, you don't take back any workers, because when you place a worker out there, they are spent, and the only way you can get a worker back is to buy the card. So, all right, so that is basically the game. We will do one more quick little section to talk about the solo variant, but if you're not interested in that, thank you for watching. Please check out our website and YouTube channel for some other videos and articles we have, and please hit subscribe so you can see all the new videos. Thanks for watching. All right, real quick, we're going to look at the solo portion of the game, and we are really just going to concentrate on the solo AI board and the solo cards. Okay, let's try this again. Take 2. 1, 2, 3. Alright, so we're going to look at the solo portion of the game, and we're really just going to concentrate on the board here and the deck of cards. A lot of the gameplay is exactly the same, especially for the portion that you will be doing. You basically do nothing different, and the setup is almost exactly the same. So if you skipped over all that, then I would advise you to jump back to the setup chapter and watch a couple minutes there to see how that works. The difference is what you're going to give the solo player or AI. So on the back side of the player board is the solo board, and there's 4 different ones because they're going to kind of specialize in a different way of getting points. So like this person specializes in tiles. This person specializes in getting townsfolk cards. So there's 4 different ones you can play against with varying difficulties, it seems like. So you just pick out one of those. They do not need dice, even though they do have a caravan. They're not going to have the dice, so they're going to just have a yellow worker and a blue worker and their influence tokens. They're going to have their colored starter token up here on the journal track like normal, and then you do need 2 extra colors. One will get placed here on the resource track, and one will get placed down here on the comet track. And then you need the AI cards, which should be 6 cards here that you'll shuffle up in place over here to the right of the board. So the AI player does not need silver, does not need provisions. Again, they don't need dice. So what's going to happen is you're going to go first and play as normal, and then when it's the AI's turn, you're going to flip over the first AI card, and there's going to be a few things you look at. First, there is a silver amount up here, and I think it goes from 0, 1 to 2. However much that shows, you're going to move this around this little box. That will help the AI to decide which type of cards it's going to play, and so on and so forth. But this one has a 0, so we do not move that marker down the track. So you'll move down the card, and this will be the primary thing that you will attempt to do with the AI. If they can't do this, they'll move to this one, which they can always do. So you'll see here this on the left side, they want to play a green worker on a green card. He has no green workers yet, so he cannot do that. So secondary, he wants to place a blue worker on a blue card. Now he does have a blue worker, so he can do that. But which card do you put it on? So you're going to use this little chart here to decide that. You'll see a number here, 0 through 1, or 0 to 1 on that top level, and then 2, 3, and 4. What you're going to do is you're going to add up the number of silver on the last 2 cards played, or in this case, the last card since there's only 1, and that's going to be the level that you look at. So because we are 0 to 1 and he wants a blue card, we're going to look here, and it shows to try to pick up the leftmost card and work to the right. So that pertains to buying a card or placing your worker. So if he can place his worker on this left card, he's going to do so. Now, if there was already a worker there, a blue worker, and he couldn't, he would move to the right and he would attempt to go there. Once you place the worker there, he's going to do whatever this says. Now, if he goes there, he doesn't have dice, so those icons, you're going to look up here, and instead of re-rolling a dice, he gets to pull a worker off the board. Instead of manipulating a dice, he'll put an influence down. Again, when it's time to put the influence down, you're going to use the same little chart to decide where it goes. The difference here is you don't know what type of card, so you're going to use this track, the resource track. So he is currently on black, so he's going to want to put this on the black card. Again, you look at 0 to 1, the leftmost card, so he would go put this on the leftmost space card. You can't see that up there because I wanted to show you how this works here, but that's how you would decide on that. So this eventually will move around as he picks up new cards, and then or plays new cards, and then sometimes he'll decide to do blue or yellow or green. So if you can do that, you do it and then you move on. So say it's his turn again, we come to this card, now we go 1 space there, and we say, okay, can he spend 2 out of the yellow guild? If he can, then he would do it. He only has 1 in the yellow guild, so we're going to go here, and this means place 2 influence in the yellow guild and place an influence on a card. So again, how do we decide that? We look at what color he's on, and he is in black, so he will want to place a influence on the black card. Now, which black card? Well, we look at these 2. 1 plus 0 is 1, so we're going to stay on that top level. Now, if these were 2 2s and it was 4, he would go to the rightmost black card and try to place an influence, and if he can't, he would move to the left. So between this little box and this right here, you're going to use that to decide where he's placing things. There is a track here pertaining to the inspiration cards. So if you get to the point where the AI needs to pick up an inspiration card, you look at if he's on this top level, this middle level, or bottom, and that will tell you which inspiration card to go grab. Now when he grabs cards, when he buys townsfolk cards or anything like that, you're just going to put them in a stack. They're just going to, like townsfolk, space, all of them just get stacked up, because at the end of the game, he's just going to get points for the varying types of cards. So you're not going to have to lay them around the board like you do on your player board. You're going to just put them in a big stack, section them out at the end, count up his points. Now, he has a few other things going on the board here, mostly his caravan. So sometimes he will get tiles. Remember these types of bonus tiles. Now, it doesn't matter what side they're going to go on, he doesn't care, but he's going to start in the bottom left corner and he's going to try to put a tile like this. Now if he covers up something, you get to do that, so he gets to get a space card. Again, you use the combination of this up here to decide what space card he gets, and then the next tile he gets is going to go here, and you're going to work it this way and back around this way and just follow those icons, the little arrows here. If he fills this up, then he can't place a tile anymore. He just buys the tile and sticks it over here on the side, basically stopping you from getting a tile. Sometimes you'll cover up the comments, and that will trigger him to move this up the comment track, because whoever has the most comments at the end of the game can score some extra points depending on their space cards. So there's that to look out for. You will also see as he goes around, he'll hit this, and every time he hits that, he puts a influence in the yellow guild, and that varies depending on which board you're using. Sometimes that allows him to get a card. You just gotta decide, or just depending on what board you're playing on. This little section here reminds you that if he has influence in the black guild, he will always try to do an extra journal action. So if he is behind you in the journal track, he only has to spend 1 black in order to take an extra journal action that turn. If he's tied with you and he has 2 in the black guild, he can spend both of them to get an extra. And then if he's ahead of you and he has 3 in the black guild, he spends those 3 and does an extra move. So my experience is the AI goes very quickly through the journaling track. Now, if you remember when we talked about the journaling track on the normal part of the game, there are times when you have to, and I'm not sure if you can see this, but when you have to move up or down, the way the AI decides that is using this box right here. So you'll look at his cards, you'll see that there's blue backed cards and red backed cards. If at the time of journaling, if you have the majority blue, he will always choose to go up on the journaling track. If he has a majority red, he will always get down on the journaling track. If he has no majority, like he has in this case, he'll do what's on the last card. So eventually, as you take your turns, you'll hit a point where you have 3 of one color. And I'm going to slide this over, make sure everyone can see it okay. So you'll see that we've hit the point where we have 3 blues out there. On the next turn, he is going to rest, and you're going to just follow this little section down here. So first, if the last card that was played has a meteor or a comet, whatever, he's going to move up the comet track. He's then going to do typically his special ability, which in this case is to buy a bonus tile, or not buy one because he gets them for free. And again, you're going to use a combination of this track up here plus the silver to determine which tile he's going to buy, and then he is going to journal. When he journals, you'll move him forward. Depending on, in this case, he would move forward and get to go up instead of down if he has a choice. Obviously, he does not have to have the requirements of the journal track like you have. he just gets to go on it. And then you'll again check this to see if he can spend any Black Guild tokens to take the extra journaling track. Sometimes when he gets to the special purple pink icon for a tile, the way you determine which one he picks is you look at the last card, and there's this little emblem here, so he would pick the top row last one. And there's little arrows to remind you if that one's gone, then you just go around in a little circle until you hit the next one. So he gets that special tile, puts it in his caravan. Then you shuffle up all the cards, even the ones you did not use, and put them back into a stack. And then next turn, he picks the first card. So it's very similar to the actions you're going to be taking, minus he really doesn't get any resources, but you're going to just work down the card while you're moving this around the track and determining, can he do this? If he can, do it. If he has to make a decision, use the combination here that we've laid out to make that decision for the AI. If he can't do this, go to that. And the rest of the game is played pretty similarly. The game will still end when someone gets to the end of the journaling track. If that is him, then you get one more turn, and then he gets one more turn. And the way he scores points is he basically tallies up all the different cards that he bought at those different point values. And then he will have points here from the different tiles he bought. And then if he has majority in each guild, he'll get 3 points on each of those. And a culmination of all those, and compare it to yours and see if you're lucky enough to win. So hope you enjoyed the video. Please subscribe so you can check out more as they come out. And please go visit the website at boardgamebreakdown.com for some text reviews, photos, things of that nature. And thanks again for watching.